My cousin called me at midnight to ask me to babysit her grown kids. I said no. Chaos followed, and now I have a restraining order, even though I hardly knew her or her adult children. I declined my cousin's midnight call, asking me to watch them. I have my own life. I work full-time and I'm 28. Being 28, you know. It's irrelevant because I should always schedule time for my family. I know maybe 7% of them by name and 15% of them by face, but let's overlook that. I'm sorry, but someone is sure to get bogged down in the details with the 400 Mildreds, 250 Linders, and 800 Stefanies, Chelseas, and Janets I see once. When there's a full planetary alignment, I make time for my parents, my grandma and my siblings. I'm the youngest of 3, so I work at a pretty flexible job. Even though it's not that bad, I also schedule time for other people I see regularly. Let's get back to the funeral. Throughout the before the ceremony, I kept getting asked if I remembered who I was and if I knew who I was. To avoid any awkwardness, I said yes to both questions. I was introduced to her children. We said hello to each other. According to their mother, they had been eagerly awaiting my arrival and were delighted to meet me. What the hell was I thinking? I ignored it because I wasn't in the right frame of mind. My cousin told me that her children were my cousin said my kids were about 40 minutes away from my house and roughly the same age. I thought, that's great, but I wasn't really interested. She said she'd talk to my mom and suggest a small gathering later this year. I took it as a good sign and went on, even though I'm not 14 anymore and don't need permission to do anything. Let's fast forward to roughly 45 minutes later. I get a call at around midnight from a number in the city where most of my family lives. The location is quite specific, too specific to be spam. I panic, of course. My grandpa was only a few years older than my grandma, who was down there at the time. I thought it was a bit strange, so I picked up the phone. Is everything okay? I just wanted to check when you're free to get lunch this weekend with her children's names. I felt like that meme with all the mathematics going on. After I eventually figured out who this was, I realized this woman couldn't have contacted me at almost midnight to arrange her explicitive playdate. I'm sorry. What I said? I remember at the funeral, she said. We discussed getting together later with you and the kids, and we also talked about the son applying to university. The daughter is transferring there for her junior year. I thought we could meet after their Saturday morning tour, and you could take them out to lunch. There's no alcohol. My son is 18. Hang on, what? She said they were about my age. But her son can't drink. As I remember. Then she started talking about how her daughter, who is 22 and doesn't know what moderation means, isn't allowed to drink. Unless she or her husband. I don't understand why I'm discussing this with an 18-year-old and a 22-year-old. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks this. Don't use drugs. Concentrate on your studies. And don't get anyone pregnant. What's the topic of discussion? I don't even know these individuals. I was gasping and chatting away on the phone. Before I even realized it, it wasn't appreciated by my cousin. I muttered, "Yeah, I don't think so." But I was too busy laughing to hear what she was saying. I don't get off until around 8 p.m. on Saturdays since I work a double shift. Well, first of all, I don't know what's so funny about what I said. She shot back. Additionally, you may simply have a wonderful supper or do something else. 8 p.m. It's not that late. I had lost all patience by now. This isn't Star Trek, and I work about 40 minutes away. After an 11-hour shift, I'm not in the mood to babysit. and I won't be arriving home until about 9 o'clock. Although this is a college town, I can suggest a few places for you to check out on your own. There aren't many locations that don't serve alcohol, but they do have other drinks. After all, she said, pardon me, I am aware that your mother did not teach you to treat others rudely, especially your relatives. I don't know. You know, you're calling me at the absolute worst time to arrange a get-together with your kids, who are not my age, and I have no idea who you are. You're all young adults. I cover the cost of my own health insurance. We are not alike. Do not call me again, please. After hanging up, I had a brief argument. My fiancé had been awakened by this absurdity, and I'm not going to hear the end of it. During regular waking hours, of course. I had hoped she would wake up and complain about me so my mother would scold her for phoning us at such an inappropriate hour. However, I am aware that my mother I should have been a bit more polite, but I think I did okay by refraining from using profanity during the discussion. Perhaps I'm simply talking about my zero expletive tolerance. Update: it turns out that by making a joke about my cousin calling my mom to complain about me, I jinxed myself. My mother is a gem, but she did wake up my hardworking, impoverished mother to spy on me. I've seen her attack others like a rogue chainsaw. Her charming act wasn't a lie to me. Tinkerbell is petty. She mentioned that she said some words, which is her way of saying that she cursed, but she didn't tell me exactly what she said. After saying one sentence, she hung up. My mom called my cousin back to get the whole story. When she'd had her coffee, she gave me a call. At that point, my mom asked me, "Did you make a Star Trek reference?" During a conversation with your cousin about why you wouldn't be able to have dinner with her kids, I could tell she was struggling to maintain her composure. I do understand, though, since I only have a car and still need to pay for gas. I could hear her trying not to laugh over the phone. She said, "Honey, I don't think she gets your sense of humor." Well, that should come as no surprise, given that we don't even know one another. At that moment, my mom burst out laughing so loudly that my dad could hear it from a different room. I could hear him laughing through the speaker. My mother didn't have the strength to tell me to apologize just yet, even though I know she wanted to. She advised me to wait until my cousin had calmed down a bit, but she would keep me updated. I was traveling to work at the time of this call, which is what nearly I crashed my car as a result. I understand that what your cousin did was absurd. But do you think it was appropriate to laugh at her? My mother asked. I won't reveal precisely what Mum told me next. But it seems that in her initial outburst, she had come up with a rather colourful moniker for my cousin. The N-word appeared. In the name of everything that's holy, but don't worry, we're all black. I'd never heard my mother use that word in my entire life. She was so furious that I'm shocked she was able to contact this woman back, much less engage in a normal discussion. Therefore, I believe it should be clear that nobody in this household should be concerned. I'm a bundle of kittens in comparison to Mum when she's exhausted. Second update: from now on, I shall refer to her as this raccoon dog since I have officially had enough of her. Her name is in my contacts as well. Get ready to be as mistaken as I was if you believe that the entitlement and rudeness, it couldn't get much worse. I suppose I'm simply an expletive fool. The wort, which is basically your sugar water, is used to add malt extracts. The grains are first boiled in a kettle or stock pot and then the heat is turned off before boiling the liquid once more. You must stir until the extracts dissolve. Hops are then added, which add a range of tastes and bitterness. I use several components that I produce myself during the initial boil, which makes my brews a little more complex because these materials take a long time to mature. I make sure not to waste any of it later on, which is important. The raccoon dog from hell called me while I was relaxing and doing my thing. I was curious, so I answered her call after thinking about leaving her a voicemail. Hey, this is RD. Oh, hello. What's up? I wanted to apologize for the other day. I didn't think about it at the time, but I stayed up late talking to someone I didn't know well. I was pretty annoyed, to be honest. I really hoped you'd think twice about hanging out with blah and blah, even though I know we had a rough start. I know you were worried since you don't know each other and they don't know anyone in that town. I understand. All I want is for them to be with someone they feel at ease with. As I said before, I think it's reasonable for her to want to make sure they have a good time at college. I didn't like going to classes and spending time with strangers, so I took online classes and stayed at home. I told her I understood why she was doing it this way. Thanks for understanding. Thanksgiving or Christmas? Yes, of course. I don't see why not. As we'll all be at the same location anyway. Excellent. Many thanks. They'll be quite thrilled. Fantastic. With a gentle click-clack, I put the brew kettle back on the hot stove and said, Sounds good. Are you preparing a meal? Yes, you can cook, can't you? What? Are you making beer? I'm brewing wort for a new recipe I'm trying out. What's wort? It's beer made with sugar. Sorry, did you say beer? Yes, I'm brewing beer. Is your mum aware of what you're doing? I think so, since she knows I can make beer. It's awkward. I said beer, not cocaine. Didn't you hear me? Are you also able to say no? You're acting like I'm breaking something. So I asked, well, I'm just worried about the potential impact that could have on the children. Perhaps don't bring that up when you're hanging around. I am already aware that certain conventional families may not find my interests and employment choice suitable. I'd be lying if I said her reaction and treatment of something I'm really passionate about didn't make me feel a bit upset. I was going to see them over the holidays and I don't really discuss my passions in front of my family. I just wanted to show some respect and to prevent any drama. Did I not decline the hangout and end the call at that moment? Therefore, it wouldn't have been a problem. I simply agreed and rolled my eyes. Fantastic. The final item is that I am aware that the neighborhood has a large number of affordable apartments in student housing. Therefore, I wanted to know which ones we should look into, ideally ones close to the school and within your budget. This is where reality kicked in. To be honest, I smiled a little. The rates are pretty reasonable for a 2-bedroom apartment, and it's about a 5 to 10 minute walk from the school, which is great. 2 might live next door. Yes, regarding that actually. Before the year ends, we will be relocating to the city where I work, which is over 40 minutes away. Oh, hold on. I'm not really paying attention. Are you stating that you will not be able to visit them? I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Actually, no, not at all. We're moving closer to our jobs so that we won't have to drive as far, which is the main goal. But you do it all the time, so I just don't understand why you couldn't go see them once or twice a week. Well, that would be really inconvenient for me. That doesn't seem very likely to me. Is spending a couple of hours with your family really so inconvenient? Don't you sometimes make the extra drive to your parents' city? Yeah, but traffic is typically the cause, so you go see them despite the fact you'll be even farther away when you move. I don't understand why it's so inconvenient for you to drive halfway to see your relatives, especially on days like today, when you should be spending time with your family instead of creating them. To put it simply, I think your priorities are a little out of order. For the remainder of this talk, I decided that civility was unnecessary and pushed it into a locked closet, despite the fact that I've chosen my words carefully throughout all of our conversations. I'm sorry, Did you really just compare the level of importance between your kids, who I have said exactly 0 words to in my entire 28 years of life, to my parents? I got pretty upset. Let me start by saying that I have no idea why. I'd like to know who you are speaking with. I'd like to know who you are. I'd like to know what I owe you. I'd like to know what time or portion of my day you deserve to reclaim. I'd like to know why you've returned to my life. I'd like to know if we hadn't crossed paths again, what I'd miss. I don't know you, so I don't know what I'd miss. I don't have an attic, so I don't know what I'd miss. I don't know if you'll move in, but I'm going to visit my folks and give them all the homemade alcohol I've made. I'm also going to ask you to stop diverting my attention, because I've just ruined my kettle. I nearly lost it when I heard my fiancé laugh out loud in the adjacent room, but that was in the heat of the moment. I sounded like an irate Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls. After that, I ended the call, saying, "See you on Thanksgiving," which was all I could manage in my annoyance. I haven't heard from anybody else since, and I'm quite certain that nobody will have the audacity to bring it up, given how out of character that blow-up was for me. I don't get angry very often, so when I do, my parents usually just make sure I'm okay and stop anyone from bringing it up later. I have to thank my fiancé for making me laugh so quickly at the ridiculous noise I made when I saw the pot boil over. He came to help me clean up the mess. I asked him if he thought I'd be punished for that outburst. He said that I scared her enough to make her go and hide in her room. I haven't had anything to do at all since Thanksgiving. Thanks to everyone who took the time to read this, as it will be the final installment. I'm glad I could keep you entertained on this chaotic roller coaster. I know that most of you were anticipating some kind of media circus family meal, but this is the moment you've all been waiting for. To be honest, so did I. This year the goddess of chaos chose to be my best friend and maybe it was the perfect holiday for me. My family's Thanksgiving was cancelled, so my fiancé and I had to work on Black Friday. My grandma stayed at home, in remembrance of my grandfather, and my parents traveled to see my brother. We spent Thanksgiving at home, watching a marathon of horror films while snuggled up in our pajamas, enjoying a delicious meal and drinks that I had made. I was really enjoying it. Then my phone rang, but I didn't answer because I didn't recognize the number. They left a voicemail, but they could wait until tomorrow. While I was on vacation for the holidays, I received another call from the same number a few minutes later. Then another, and yet another. I was on the verge of putting my phone in an assault barrier to deter this stalker, as my fiancé recommended. I listened to the message, which I had forgotten about. I turned my phone on so we could hear it. "This is your landlord, SFM." I phoned her back in a panic because I'd missed around 8 calls from this woman by that time. "Oh, baby, it's going to feel like Christmas." She was professional throughout the call. I don't judge, but I would have been furious too. I gave my landlord a call. She sounded as though she had discovered an entire turkey in the toilet. "I'm sorry, I didn't know this was you." I began. "Honey, I understand. Like everyone else, you were having a great time on vacation. Please don't even think about it." She cut me off. Here's a nervous laugh. "So, what is going on? What's happening? Are you familiar with a woman named Raccoon Dog?" she inquired. Her name was still a mystery to me, so I said, "Not off the top of my head." "No, all right. So she's been berating our courteous cop for she's been trying to get hold of you for the last hour and a half. She said that after you invited her children over, she's been unable to contact you. Make sure that explicit didn't think I was inviting him to visit my house when I said, 'See you on Thanksgiving' in our last phone conversation. I'm still having trouble connecting." I haven't spoken to this person in a month, so I was pretty freaked out when my landlord called me on her cell phone on Thanksgiving. I thought it was an eviction notice at first, but I clarified that neither of us had invited anyone, so I have no idea who this could be. See, that's what I thought. You guys don't ever really have nobody around like that. Anyway, my landlord said, going into full nail salon black lady mode. Given that my fiancé and I are antisocial recluses. The landlord went on. But she knows your identity. She's also been asking for your room number without mentioning your fiancé. No reputable business would give out that kind of information like that. You'd still be in violation of the law even if we did. I asked her what she was doing. She parked in front of the fire zone with her kids in the car and she's shouting about police brutality because our courtesy officer gave her a fine and told her that if she doesn't move, we're going to have her car towed. That's what my landlady said. My apartment complex is very close to the university and the main road leading to the separate properties is frequently used as a route directly to many of the university buildings as well as 1/3 of the fraternities. They take this very seriously. Just to let you know, the fine for parking in front of a fire zone here ranges from $500 to $2,000, depending on the location and severity of the situation. Did she relocate? I inquired, but my landlord said she threatened the courtesy officer after receiving a fine for the fire zone. Her children are still in the car and he had to phone for assistance. My fiancé, seated next to me, burst out laughing like a crazy person as I cackled, clearly still in a panic because I still didn't know who this was. Oh, it's Raccoon Dog. My fiancé texted my mother, what dog? My landlady interrupted and said, this poor woman. She sounded so defeated and worn out as she questioned, can you formally state that you didn't invite her and don't want her here? I told her everything from the beginning, and I could hear all the energy leave her body as she started laughing. This stunning woman said, okay, and I replied with an expletive. She said, I got this, and then hung up. I couldn't stop thinking about this woman's children and how ashamed they must have been. I don't understand how I haven't heard from someone who has fled at this point. I was shocked, incredulous, and trying not to laugh. My fiancé clicked play on our movie and said, eat, watch. I didn't know what to say, so I just followed his instructions. I was trying not to choke on my food from laughing so hard. I tried to think of anything to say, but all I did was open my mouth before he stopped me with a nope. When I later learned that Road Raccoon Dog had gotten in touch with her, my mother threw the biggest fit, accusing I was accused of lying to her about spending Thanksgiving with her children. It seems that during the same phone call where I yelled at her, she was fine. She received $2,000 from the courtesy officer assigned by my landlord. To make matters worse, her husband had to pay $3,500 to bail her out of jail. She was hit with an additional $7,500 fine for trespassing, resisting arrest, and threatening violence toward a police officer. I didn't even have to do anything yet. I am the expletive worst. It all began with a random, unsolicited phone call. A couple of months ago, in the middle of the night, I'm still struggling to put the situation into words. I'm trying to persuade myself that it really happened. I've been trying to apologize on her behalf for some time, but they were so ashamed that they decided to just leave me alone. These kids spent most of their Thanksgiving sitting in a car in front of a random apartment complex, and then they sat in a police station for an indeterminate amount of time until their dad could come get them. They knew their mom would be in jail overnight and that bailing her out would blow half their Christmas fund, which is pretty understandable. I mean, imagine spending Thanksgiving stuck in a spectacle of pure insanity brought on by your delusional mother. I told him about the great pizza place up the street. I'm free next Friday and I'll pay. I don't know what your schedules look like this weekend. I have a pizza date and a restraining order. It's a match made in heaven. This whole thing has been such a cluster. I hope you enjoyed sitting in it with me as much as I enjoyed writing it. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.